Thank you very much. So like Scott said, we have Amanda Bradford from the League today. So for those of you that don't know, the League is a dating app for young professionals. She started the League in 2015 after business school, after some awkward experiences she had with other apps during her summer internship at business school. So prior to business school and founding the League, she studied information systems at Carnegie Mellon University, and after sales and business development roles at both Salesforce and Google, she went to Stanford Graduate School of Business. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, and to clarify, I'm not awkward, the experience.
I'm sorry, I misworded it. So before we go into this, I have a question from my friend Sean in New York City.
Okay.
He's on the waiting list. He's been on the waiting list for a little bit, and he wants to know when he's going to get off.
Well, New York's pretty competitive.
Okay.
So each of our regions have kind of a slightly different admissions algorithm, just like different universities do. So New York is one of the more competitive ones, just given the maturity of the region. So I would tell him to be patient, to make sure he has 6 photos that are high resolution, and make sure he actually, if someone was looking at his profile, it looks like he wants to be there.
Okay.
So tell him to run it by a couple girlfriends, and they'll tell him he's on the wait list, I would bet.
Okay. I'll make sure to include this.
Oh, shoot. Should have done a mic check. All right.
I'll make sure to tell him what to watch this portion.
Yes.
On YouTube later.
Do you want me to well, we can do it later.
Yes.
We'll tell him one-on-one later.
So, going into your background, tell us a little bit about your background. You do have some Austin and some UT connections.
I do. I'm I guess kind of a Texas native. So I grew up in Travis County. I went to middle school out at Westridge Middle School. So I am a Texas girl. Both my brothers are Longhorns, so I'm a big UT fan. And we moved to North Carolina in high school, and then I went to Carnegie Mellon for undergrad because they had a really great computer science program, and I decided I wanted to do something in technology. My dad was always in technology. We were the first on the block to have Prodigy, CompuServe, AOL, all of that. So we were kind of a tech nerd type of a house. Right. So I didn't think computer science would be that hard. So I was like, sure, I'll do computer science. And then little did I know, like 2 years into it at Carnegie Mellon is one of the best computer science programs in the world. So, you're around people that have been studying this subject matter since feels like birth. So it was a little bit of a intimidating situation. A lot of late night tutoring, a lot of all-nighters to get through, but it ended up doing kind of a slightly different major there, information systems, which I actually feel gave me a lot more of the practical. It was slightly less about the math and the kind of art of it, and more about just getting shit done. Right. I like to say, of a major. And so we got out of there learning how to build database-driven websites, how to write PHP, how to write JavaScript. I didn't know how to write an operating system algorithm, but I knew how to kind of do a little bit more basic heavy lifting, I guess you could say. So those gave me I think, confidence and the skills so that when I was starting to think about creating an app, I was not intimidated by sort of the technical requirements.
Absolutely.
And things like that.
So you've had quite a bit of work experience in various roles in technology. So ranging from sales to product marketing to product manager, even at Evernote. So what roles have been pivotal in you becoming a good entrepreneur?
I think sales is huge. So my first role out of school was actually supporting people that were selling the product with other salespeople. So you can almost think of it as like the third down the rope as far as I wasn't even allowed to talk to the customers. I was literally in a back room kind of building a demo product that I would then give to someone who would then kind of sell it and take credit for my work and close deals. So, but because of that, I got to be in every single customer discovery call. I got to hear all the problems customers were having as they built and grew a business. And sales is obviously like very core to any business. So I feel like I learned a lot about business models, A, and B, sales. And then once I started carrying a quota, I would say like the third thing I learned would be, how to kind of be creative to hit your numbers. So not always were deals sort of in your lap. So you had to kind of create opportunity out of nothing. And I think that's sort of like the art of hustling. And when I think of really good like growth marketers and really good entrepreneurs, I think of them as the kind of people that will hit their quota no matter what. And even if they have to kind of create a product out of thin air to sell, they can kind of figure out how to do it.
I'm a former CPA, so
nice.
you can't tell me that you're getting creative with the numbers. That's a bad thing.
Not with the numbers, but with how you bundle things. Let's just say I created a lot of custom Amanda bundles at Salesforce.
Okay. That's fine then. That's fine. You went to business school, and I think a common theme in tech is don't go to business school, right? What did you feel about business school? We've had a variety of guests here who have said, business school has been great for them in helping them create their tech businesses or any kind of business that they created. So just out of curiosity, how was your experience, and was that helpful, or did you think you didn't need it?
Well, no, I think the way I think about business school is 2 years to figure out like what you're good at, what you like doing, and what kind of opportunities are in front of you that you have a reasonable chance at kind of going after. So I think of it as it's really hard to do that when you're in the throes of a career, to kind of take a step back and think at kind of a macro level. So it sort of gives you that time on your resume without just being like, I needed 2 years to travel. Like you actually kind of are doing something. You're learning. You're listening to entrepreneurs who've both been successful and failed, and you're hearing about their failures. So I like to think you're learning through osmosis of hearing all these sort of. A lot of times they're sad or not successful exits, but you're hearing these founders come and kind of share how intense the experience was. So I think it's sort of. To me, I don't think it's a silver bullet, but it exposes you to the people who know what needs to be done, so you're kind of enlightened to what you need to do, even if you don't actually have the skills to do it all. And business school is not going to give you all the skills, so it's not, but business school is going to give you it's going to give you the light to know that, oh, you need someone that will model this for this type of product, and you actually know like who you need to hire. I like to think of it like that way.
Okay.
So it's almost like it gives you kind of a playbook, and then obviously you still have to execute the playbook after. But I don't know. I felt like I couldn't have done my personal business. I mean, we literally were founded on the backs of Stanford MBAs, like downloading the app, sharing with friends. So for us, it's a no-brainer. I couldn't have done what I did without sort of the support of my classmates and the sort of learnings I learned and the opportunities I saw like through the business school experience.
So it seems like from your work experience, your sales skills are really important in you becoming this entrepreneur, but also business school is important in you developing these softer skills, I'd say.
And just learning, I think, a macro view of, I was always in sales, so I understood the sales part of business very well, and a little bit of product, but I wasn't in the engineering organization, I wasn't in customer support, and you're not in dealing in finance and dealing with, should we have a new office location? And so I think taking a step back and getting to think about a business more holistically, and then entering it back in as an owner operator, I think helps a lot.
All right, thank you. So moving on to the league.
My favorite topic.
Yes, I'm sure you've been asked a million times. So what is the league specifically, from your mouth?
Well, I'm gonna try a new one on you, right?
Okay,
it's a shorter one.
Let's hear it.
It's a mobile app for aspiring power couples.
Oh. That's
short.
A good one.
It's short. I know. Someone asked me if I could get an elevator pitch in like 4 or 5 words, and that was it. But I actually think it does embody what we're trying to be. It's not that you had to be at this success level or income bracket or anything like that. It's really about sort of this mindset, this shared values of we're 2 ambitious people. We value that in each other, and we want to find those people on the app, regardless of kind of the external measures of success. So, aspiring power couples, maybe you are achieved your level of success, maybe you haven't, but that's sort of the matching kind of thread that we want to bring people together on.
Okay. So that kind of leads into the second question. Why did you start it?
Well, I was single. So, selfish reason, I guess. No, I was single. I think there's a lot of different reasons, but one was I saw that there was a sort of revolution happening. A bunch of my friends were using Tinder who had never used dating apps before, so that was pretty surprising to sort of see just this huge shift in consumer behavior, coupled with the amount of couples that were literally just being formed out of Stanford GSP. I think there's 30 to 40 weddings happening that are literally classmates that coupled up in the same class. And when you have a class of 300 and there's like 40 couples, that at some level you have to kind of see like what is Stanford doing that is creating these couples, and how can I emulate that digitally without having to make people pay insane amounts of money in 2 years of their life to meet these awesome people, right? There has to be another way. So I think that was a big inspiration to me. And then I think just using the other apps and finding myself having to ask the same questions over and over again that is publicly accessible information, like, do you have a job in San Francisco? Or are you traveling there this weekend? Like that, I shouldn't have to ask that with every match. Or, do you are you looking for a relationship or are you looking for a one night stand? Why do you have to ask that on every match? So it's, I think, just kind of getting rid of some of the, like, I'm a salesperson, right? So I was like, this is inefficient. How do I get rid of this and put it into the prospecting stage so that when I'm trying to kind of see if there's compatibility, we can go straight into personality and, bantering or whatever it is to kind of see if you actually would like hanging out with the person, not if they're logistically like available for you.
Yeah, right. So it's kind of also leads into the next question, but so that's a very, I would say, almost a niche part of the market, right? But the dating app landscape.
Like relationships and dating?
Oh,
I don't know. I might push back on that.
Well, I'd say like there's quite a few apps out there, right? Tinder, Hinge, Happen, Bumble, even Tinder Select, right? Tinder Select or Bumble, is it Buzz or something like the very selective group, right? Like, so they have these competing companies, and yet you said, I'm going to start this company, and you were successful at it. But what made you decide to go to this sector? What made you see, like, this is a gap that I want to for sure attack?
Well, I think it was a little bit of the space being changing, right? So if you think about, I came from the Salesforce CRM industry, and that was very much this on-premise, the Oracles and the Siebels and the PeopleSofts, and then the Salesforce.coms come and, their software as a service. I kind of think and they go and disrupt all the dinosaurs, and I kind of think the same thing's happening in mobile with dating, right? You have the Match, the eHarmony, all these sort of dying 1.0 sites that built their audience on the web, and now the mobile apps are coming and really bringing the millennials audience that these legacy websites never had a chance to get. So I guess I saw this big shift that I saw when I was at Salesforce happening, and then I also saw that people were meeting each other on apps more than they were meeting each other in person anymore. Like, I don't know about you, but very few people are now kind of hitting on each other at the bars. It's very much app driven. And so my theory was that, or my hypothesis was that, meeting humans through technology is going to be the norm, not the exception. And coupled with what I expected to be Tinder fatigue, I was like, just give it 18 months and we'll be here. So I think it was a variety of reasons, but it's a little personal and also just market driven. I think it's a really, it was a $2 billion industry like 5 years ago. I think it's going to double, if not triple, given the kind of acceptance that millennials have had for dating apps in general.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody's on Tinder or whatever. Hopefully the league soon. Hopefully the league.
Yeah, we just launched in Austin, so you guys get on.
So how do you go about testing this idea? Since it's kind of a niche market, right? Like, how do you make sure that, this business exists?
Yeah, I did a lot of testing myself before I even implemented any line of code or worked with a developer for any line of code. So I wanted to basically almost fake people out as if I had the app and get their feedback on it without actually having to go through the pain and torture of developing it. Because if anyone's developed a mobile app, it's not super easy and not fun. It's harder than a website, and there's a lot more nuances. So what I did is I did a combination of kind of like Photoshop. I used this tool called Balsamic, and then I did another tool called Envision, and it essentially lets you kind of weave together Photoshop files so that when you show your friend an app, they almost think it's an app because they push a button, it goes to the next screen, they push another button, it goes to the next screen, and so it almost feels to the user like you've built an app, and they can start to give you feedback. So I did almost all of our customer development on an Envision app, which didn't have any code behind it, and it was just images linked together, and that was sort of how I did all our onboarding testing. And then I handed that to the developer to implement once I had gotten feedback from actually I used my classmates a lot at Stanford.
So I was going to say, who did you test this on?
Basically my classmates. I mean, I did whoever was in front of me, I made sure guys and girls were both, happy with sort of the language and the look and feel and the style. But I definitely knew that these were the target audience, and I was okay kind of launching niche. Okay. I was, my worst case, I said, worst case, this will be an MBA dating app. And I still think that, I would keep it in the app store, and that would be a cool little side project. So I was like, I want to make sure it at least works enough to be an MBA dating app. Right. So that was sort of the way I kind of approached customer development.
Okay, so outside of Stanford, did you test at the law school, or did you even test outside of Stanford, like maybe Haas?
So no, I tested at, so I had previously worked at Google and Salesforce, so I still had friends there, so we actually organized like a girls' wine group with some Salesforce people, and I got feedback from them who were non-MBAs because they were also my target demographic, and then I did the same with Google. And so those were, I really just used my three networks that I had, and didn't go much further than that because I really wanted to kind of launch soon and launch in San Francisco and then iterate instead of trying to build something that was everything to everyone.
I see. That's interesting. Because I guess when I reviewed videos of you, and it was always about, you validated the market a lot, and yet you spent very little on marketing because you were able to validate the market.
Right.
So it was kind of interesting to see the consequences of, I guess, your efforts.
And we did,
yes.
I guess one thing to know is we had it in the App Store almost 5 months before we launched. So
Right.
we were constantly, like when I would go to a party, I would meet someone and they'd say they were single. I'm like, oh, would you mind downloading the app and giving me feedback
That's a great idea.
on the onboarding? And like, how does it talk to you? So I was working all the time, but I would constantly be getting people to download it and getting feedback in real time. And I think that was super valuable that most people don't have.
Okay.
And the app wasn't even done yet. It was literally just a wait list. And then they're like, okay, well then when do I get to give you feedback on the actual stuff that I care about? And I'm like, oh, we're not there yet. No boys for you yet. Come back on like November, then we'll let you have your matches, which is obviously why they downloaded it.
Okay.
But by putting it in the App Store early, it was easy to get feedback as you go.
Okay. So on top of being a pretty difficult industry, where everything's kind of based on the freemium model, you decided to create waiting lists and almost charge a fee for people to access this app. So what was the reasoning behind this? Like, how did you think of that and then say, this is what I'm going to do? Like, it seems like counterintuitive.
Well, so to clarify, we put everyone on a wait list. So similar to how eHarmony makes you fill out, 1,000 questions, we make you wait on a wait list. So and the reasoning behind that is the same, is that we want you to want to be there, right? And if you get in right away, you're not going to appreciate it as much. So everyone goes to a wait list, no matter how amazing and league worthy your profile is.
Right.
And then we actually have two algorithms that run and a team of human review that goes and makes sure that you're not using fake profile photos. You're you are who you say you are. They kind of double or triple authenticate, I guess. So we wanted to do that because my theory was social networks tend to go downhill really fast, and if you don't protect them at front, then you have the Twitter problem, which is like now you have this underbelly of trolls kind of ruling the community. And so I felt like if we could, especially with dating, this is like 10 times worse with dating, just because you have people doing spam, like scams, and people with their heart on their sleeve that are very vulnerable. So there's even more fraud within dating.
Right.
So we wanted to be super aggressive up front, and even if it definitely hurts our growth. Like, it's a conscious decision every day that by requiring Facebook, LinkedIn, and people to wait, and then to pay a fee if you don't want to wait, we're literally hindering our own growth rate. But at the same time, I think once you get into the community, it's such a better experience that the users then refer friends, they spend money, they stay on. So I like to think that it's the better way to do it. But it definitely results in a little bit of a slower growth rate.
Right. So how did you determine like the value that you would bring? So like you do have a price. So like how do you say, okay, this is how much more value we bring compared to our competitors? Something like that.
Yeah.
Like, how did you go about that process?
Pricing in dating is tricky. If you look at some of the apps, there's everything. I think Happen sells stuff for like 99 or like 10 cents. I think you can buy some stuff for 10 cents. Our cheapest thing is like $10 because it's like, if you're gonna spend the money, let's at least make it so it'll hit our bottom line.
Right.
I mean, for us, like if we have our users spending 10 cents, that's not going to do anything for us. We have a small user base. We're not a tender size user base, right? So we can't do ads. We can't do 10-cent products. So we need to make sure that everything we're sort of selling to the user is actually really going to provide value. And so a lot of what we provide to users in exchange for money is acceleration in matching, acceleration in seeing more people, and getting to why they're actually downloading the app, which is to get an offline date. So, and I don't feel like unethical about that. Whereas on some dating sites, a lot of how they monetize is like, pay to get a chance to see the pretty girl, but she might not like you back. Or there's a lot of there's a lot of sort of plain, you're selling to people's sort of emotions and hopes and dreams, and you can argue the merits of that, but I'd rather sell to someone's rationality and say, look, I'd like to be on the league tomorrow, not next month, and I'm willing to pay $200 to start dating tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And so that's sort of the way we think about monetization. And as far as where we priced it, we never wanted to do. We literally priced it so that we could never. I priced it based on if we were only going to have 1 million daily active users. I sort of reverse engineered the pricing so that we could get to certain revenue milestones without having to need to build a massive user base of 10 million, 100 million users, which is obviously very, very hard when you, like you said, we're a little bit of a niche.
Why 1 million?
Industry. We did market sizing, so based on the cities we want to go to, based on the number of college-educated people, the people who have LinkedIn, the people who are single, we kind of backed into a a market size that we think 1 million daily actives is a attainable number we can get to.
So like the pricing and that part, the waiting list part, did you validate that as well with your classmates or anybody you met at these parties?
No, the waiting list is actually a funny, so our monetization story is pretty funny. We launched without having we launched with a fake monetization. So I launched with a $15 a month thing that you push the button and it didn't actually charge you, but it just told you charged you, and it said, great, you've now been upgraded, and it gave you a couple new features. And so we saw that we had pretty normal percentage conversion rate on that. So when we launched our first version, I kind of knew we at least had some percentage within reason of a freemium model to be had. So that was data point 1 that I used. And then we didn't actually operationalize that. And then I remember when we were rebuilding the second app, because our first app basically broke when we launched New York on it. Right. Because New York New York really needed it. New York really needed the league. So as soon as we launched in New York, all the servers went down, and we found out that our app was not built for scale. So we had to rebuild the app from scratch. So during that, it was almost a year rebuild period of time, but during that was when I remember some guy wrote in, I was still doing support tickets. So when you're a founder, it's not very glamorous for pretty much still now. Maybe this is the first glamorous thing I'm getting to do, but you're doing support tickets, so I'm literally writing back, and people don't know it's me, and they're bitching about,
it's okay,
complaining about the site, and they're like, why don't you just let me pay $100 to skip this line? This is to be a super easy business model. You guys are dumb, or someone writing, and I was like, great, we've added it to the product roadmap. I'll tell the product team or whatever. And so I remember that this guy, and I think he started my wheels spinning, and I was like, you're right, that if people really want to, it's just like bottle service at a nightclub, right? So we started thinking about it, and then we added that in for the second version, the ability to pay to get expedited review, which if you've ever lost your passport, I have. So when you have a flight the same day, you have to basically go and pay $300, and you get to cut the line. So that was sort of another inspiration of let's do the passport line where you're really in a rush, and money is money doesn't matter as much when you're super time sensitive.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
So that's a little bit of background.
So that's how you came up with the pricing then?
Well, that was one. I would say that's a big part of our revenue, right? Is obviously people can choose to upgrade off the wait list. We also you can also choose to wait, get in for free, and then upgrade. And so that's another piece of our revenue as well. But yeah, we definitely use the wait list as a place to educate the user about the experience they're about to get let into, and let them kind of decide how fast they want to, have their dating experience be.
Absolutely. So moving into how you launch a new market, I find it creative that you host these parties in every city that you launch in. And it actually makes a lot of sense, especially since dating should be fun. You should have these parties. So how did you think of that? And how did you go about implementing that?
Well, it's creative, but it's also exhausting. I'll say, sure 3 years in, I've done more parties than you can imagine. But I think that's how I always would have wanted to meet someone, right? So I tend to always try to put things back to myself, since I'm sort of the one who built the original product, and I like to think how would I want to tell someone I met someone? What would I want to do on a Friday night? How would I want to go out with my girlfriends? And I think there is something to be said for the efficiency of these events where you can meet, everyone's single, so you're not having to deal with the fact that maybe you just wasted a 20-minute conversation with an awesome guy that is married or whatever. They're visiting a friend in town or whatever it might be. So I think it sort of makes it so that when you're going out, you're optimized for meeting someone that might be your person. And then I also think people still don't really like the one-on-one coffee dates as much. It just feels a little interview-like, and I think even if you're good at dating and you've gotten it down to a science, it's more fun to go out with your girlfriends or guy friends and feel like you're spontaneously running into someone, even if in the back of mind it's all created by the same algorithms that created in the app. So it's funny because everyone doesn't, they really want to meet at an event and not on the app, and so we've been trying to figure out how to scale that. So obviously we've been throwing events for the first couple years, but now we're working with partners and people like UT of enabling one of you guys to throw an event that allows us to sort of get our users there, but we don't actually have to have feet on the ground, and we don't have to be there. I don't have to be waving at every single party. But yeah, we have noticed that users really like that, and just I guess the side note on there is that we're actually investing in more event technology, so that Eventbrite events, Facebook events, all these other events are kind of shown, and you can sort of choose to go to the events based on who you think might be there, right? Because that's always the number one question. If you invite your friend to an event, they're like, who's going to be there? Anyone I think will be interesting? And so if you can somehow tell them, 5 guys that fit your preferences will be there, the league is literally saying this, then,
Yes.
then you have a lot more incentive to get off the couch. So I like to think I'm helping people get off the couch.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I can say though, at the Austin party, one of my good friends' girlfriend was there talking to some people. Maybe she shouldn't have been talking.
Well, it was a friends and family event because I am from Austin, so we had a lot of non-singles at the Austin party.
Right. No, I understand.
My mom and dad included.
So, kind of moving on to general business and running the business, your app created some controversy, and as a first-time entrepreneur, how was it handling that? Like, how do you handle something like that? That's not something you learn in the business school classroom. Or even in your prior roles, you didn't face that really. So how do you know how to handle something like that?
I didn't know, and I asked a couple people, and everyone was like, oh, PR is good PR, don't worry about it, and this was when the app was literally breaking. So, and we were in kind of a lot of tech debt happening. So I just decided to focus 100% on managing the rebuild project, and and I kind of buried myself. Like I kind of stayed out of we didn't do a lot of press or marketing. We did a couple events that year, but we were pretty much hands down on rebuilding the product. And I just kind of didn't let it faze me. I guess I stopped reading comments after like the 10th article, I think, and I still don't read them. I have my people close to me tell me if there's anything that will help me with personal development, and if there's nothing in there that will help me with personal development, I don't read it.
I see.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it was a good learning experience to learn. I guess I learned a lot about the business model of the media.
Right.
I would say in the last 3 years, and now I understand a lot more about like how they need to write articles, what kind of headlines they need. And I think for me, I was being a little selfish about it. I was like, here's my story, and like, why don't you want to write about the league and this alpha female and this, and then I'm like, oh no, they need to get clicks. And so I think it was a good learning for me, as like now when we work with press, I understand they need the headline to say something somewhat sensational, and so we can kind of help them with that without them taking advantage of us, right? So you get better at it, but yeah, it was definitely a shock to the system where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting called an asshole by this like TechCrunch writer on a TechCrunch. Like, it was crazy. One guy wrote an article that was literally called me. The headline was she's not an elitist, she's an asshole or something. And I was like, wow, all right, I'm collecting these accolades.
Yeah. But you did respond. How did you know it was like the right time to respond, and choosing the platform to respond, and like how do you determine? Did you have your team and have a team?
No, it wasn't.
Down?
It was a little bit. So just to give you guys some context. So basically, there's a lot of press being like they're elitist. They only want high income trust fund people or whatever the kind of mantra was in the press. And then what happened? LinkedIn actually reached out and asked me to ask if I wanted to write anything. They were looking to build out their kind of content editorial side, and so they were like, are you interested in writing anything around thought leadership? And so they were going to promote it. So that was actually a pretty cool opportunity. So then that was like one thing that got my wheels spinning. I had just finished The Feminist Mystique, and I was like really on I don't know, I had a lot of thoughts about just dating and relationships and how like not far we've come. I think I was a little bit frustrated after reading that, and then I think I just like sick of people writing the story for me. I was like, I'm a good writer, I can do this. Like, just because I haven't blogged about it doesn't mean we can't change the story now, and it doesn't need to be like, we don't just have to sleep in this bed that the press made us. So, so I just decided, I started writing and got really inspired, and then just posted it. And the same goes with that weird Stanford one. Someone wrote some terrible thing, and that one I wrote back like literally within the hour, and that was a very emotional response. But that one I just felt like, for me, it was the loyalty of, I consider like when you go to the same college, it's like you have this sort of, this loyalty thing, and so it'd be like, I felt very attacked by that, so that was a very personal like retort. And I felt like it was okay because it was a little bit of like a Stanford person to another Stanford person versus like, I don't know. So I justified it that way, but who knows? A lot of PR people told me I shouldn't have done that.
Oh well.
Lesson learned,
but. It worked out well. So I think a criticism of the Austin tech scene is a lot of companies here build great products, but they don't build great businesses. So how do you make sure you create not only
Why
a great
did they get that? Wait, why did they get that reputation? Can you expand on that a little bit?
I'd have to look into it and probably get back to you. That's my business school answer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But you think that they're more focused on a cool feature or product and less about, will this make enough money to support
I think the idea
is,
let me build this product and then I'm going to sell it off and like just get rich off of it, rather than let's build this product and then let's build this company and then let's build other products to create this sustaining business. And there aren't very many sustaining businesses in Austin, like National Instrument, I believe, and Whole Foods, or some CPG companies as well. But even the CPG companies tend to sell off once they get to a certain level. So I'd say, like, the League, it's a great product, but then how do you make sure you create this business so it's self-sustaining and it goes on to different areas of whatever industry you choose?
Right. No, I think it's a good question. And we actually struggle with this from a recruiting perspective, because in Silicon Valley, you're recruiting engineers, and usually those are the two options. You can either go to basically an outsourced R&D for like Google or Facebook, and you're working on really sexy stuff, AI, robotics, VR, you're getting all the buzzwords, and the hope is that you get acquired in 3 to 5 years, and it's literally your outsourced R&D. And so that's the playbook, right? And as an engineer, you're getting to work on awesome things. You don't have to build a business. Building a business is actually not, there's a lot of non-glamorous things about it versus just getting to do pure R&D. So as an engineer, it's actually quite a interesting pitch, and it's one that is quite hard to pitch against. Like, I'm like, no, come help us build this business, but we actually need to, like, be digging holes and putting up barbed wire, and over here you're getting to like work with lasers. So it's interesting, and I think that a lot of people in Silicon Valley go after that because it is a little bit of a quicker. It's, you could argue maybe it has slightly higher probability of an exit that is, I don't know all the numbers, but let's just say Google's going to pick one AI company, and there's only 6, so you have 1 in 6 shot of getting picked, right? Absolutely. And you don't know what the exit is. So anyway, I don't quite, I guess, know if I'm answering the question, but I think for us it's really just figuring out who that person, like the personality type, and if that person wants to build and create and like kind of, if they're hands-on and they like to deliver things versus are they like an R&D person, they just like to go and like play with cool toys. And so I think that's sort of the personality types we try to vet in the interview process to see if this is kind of person that wants to be on the entry, be on the front lines with us, literally like going to war every day, or do they want to go be in an ivory tower kind of person?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the other thing about your business is you have an interesting customer base, and as you develop a much larger customers, you're going to have a pretty unique data set. What do you think you like?
We're not going to. We do.
Oh, we do.
We
you
do.
You do.
We have a very unique data set.
You do. So, like Bumble has moved toward BFF or Biz. Do you have any plans to move into other verticals or any other areas with your business, or are you still just trying to focus on growing the League?
So I think it all comes down to growing the League, but I think there's different ways we can grow, and I think we have noticed that there's a huge need in the way I think about it is we've built this product that is servicing this audience, right?
Yes.
And one of the things our audience needs is a way to meet people that we would be interested in dating and potentially partnering up with, right? So that's sort of one use case that we've quote unquote solved or are in the process of solving. And then it's like, what else can we solve for you, right? Is there anything related that we can solve for you? What about if it's, once you're in a relationship, finding a babysitter? That's very similar. You want a good babysitter. Maybe you want them to know Spanish so they can teach your kids Spanish while you're on your date. Who knows? But so I think, as we think about it, for me, it's less about like dating or not dating. It's more about me sitting with you for a day and finding like, what are all the things we could possibly help you with, given the fact that we have matching algorithms, given the fact that we have a data set that, verified humans that are doing different types of business. We know what industry they're in. We know who, we could almost start networking, partnering people together from a networking perspective. So we do have what we call groups and events in the app, and that is designed to start to help this networking side of the League so that if it doesn't have to just be about dating. An example there is we have people like in a surfing group and they all go surfing. We have people with kids and they share babysitters and they do kind of stuff with their kids for fun. So it's less about like, are they looking for, to actually go on a date, and more about creating a community of people.
Okay. So some of my female classmates definitely had some interesting questions as well. They wanted to know from your perspective of, what are the difficulties you faced raising capital, especially when you first started out?
Yeah, so I think after listening to a lot of people answer this question and answering it a lot, I mean, I think the answer is it's always difficult to raise capital, no matter like
exactly.
what. I think unless you're a repeat entrepreneur or you have some amazing set of friends, like it's going to be an uphill battle. And then I think, and then it's sort of like how steep will it be? And then you can kind of add on different things. Like if you're attacking an industry that isn't sexy, add on another layer of difficulty. Oh, you don't have a co-founder, add on another layer of difficulty. Oh, you're not the actual developer yourself, layer on another layer of complexity. And then you're doing dating hasn't had any exits. So not only is like the space sort of not super sexy for investors, it also hasn't, until lately actually, but it hasn't had a lot of exits, so no one's really made it rich off this industry, right? And so that's sort of another thing to think about. If like no one's made it really rich in your industry off that, it's gonna be hard. And so I always had kind of all that stuff stacked against me, which is why if we ever do invest or start to invest in other companies, I really wanna to start making it easier for people that don't have co-founders or people that are single founders to take their idea to market, because I don't think I think that's sort of this weird Silicon Valley myth we've gotten into. And yes, everything's easier with two people. Like, who am I to disagree with that? But I think it's this like fake rule that's been created to kind of push out people. I think that could have awesome ideas. So I want to make sure that we're correcting that. We're helping kind of correct that in the future.
I thought something that was interesting that I heard you talk about in a different interview was the League Startup Summit. I don't know if you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, we haven't had this yet, but that's the idea, is that we have this, once we're in our 30th city, we're going to start collecting, and once we've kind of gotten to critical mass, we want to start collecting applications so that we can actually start to help foster entrepreneurship within our community. Because the way we think about it is, if we're giving back to our community, not only are they going to be loyal to us, they're going to now go and support each other. If you have a mobile app and we promote it in the League and that gets you 100 downloads, not only are you going to love the League, you're going to tell all your friends to use it, and also we might have gotten a new, we might have a new partner if we've invested a little bit of our money. So I think there's some interesting things as we think about growth and interesting ways to keep our users loyal that are non-traditional, and that's kind of the stuff because these are like really smart users. Like, this isn't your typical like game that you got to send them like promotions. It's like these are people that would want to start businesses, are in high flying careers, and we want to sort of use that to our advantage.
Absolutely. So kind of going on, did you have difficulty hiring people as well, being a female founder or anything like that in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, I think finding an engineering leader was probably the hardest search. I equate it to very similar to dating, just because you're literally looking for kind of a co-pilot, and you want to have sort of an equal balance of power, but you also, there are some dynamics. They are working for you, and you do. So it's been, and we have had some turnover in that role, I would say. So I think it is hard, especially if I've worked with some men that had literally never worked for a woman or even with a woman. So, and if they're 10 years older than you, it's just, there's a learning curve there. And not to say I wouldn't have one if I were in his shoes either, but I think it is just a new experience for people. And so that was a learning curve for me to kind of learn how to sort of set expectations early and really explain, like, hey, this is how I'm gonna talk and sound, and I may say something that comes out the wrong way. I don't mean it that way. So it's almost like when you're in college and they make you sit down and have those awkward roommate conversations that you don't want to have. Like, that's what you should have for like almost every hire, which I've realized. So that was my takeaway from having quite a few engineering leaders.
I see. It's good.
But my one now is amazing, and so it's like it's sort of like, it is like dating. It's like after you've had enough experiences, when you know. And we work together really well. So, it takes time to find the right people.
I see. That's good to know. So kind of moving to rapid fire questions, some more fun, lighthearted questions. So what keeps you up at night?
Oh, man. So lighthearted.
Kind of lighthearted.
How rapid fire are these? Okay, what keeps me up at night? I think when people aren't matching, when people are writing in and saying I'm not getting matches or I don't like my matches, I want the algorithm to be able to give everybody what they want, even if that's not possible, physically possible in society today. I'd like it to be. So.
Okay. Well, that's touching.
Yeah.
How do you keep productive? So, I thought this was really interesting, but I'm going to let you say it. But how do you keep productive? How do
you like
make,
my?
Yeah.
He likes my my white noise.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, what are you listening to on Spotify? And I'm like, the Clean White Noise album that is just, it sounds like you're in an airplane. It's like, and so then one time I was at work and someone took out my headphones and it was really loud and the whole company was like, what are you listening to over there? Is that some sort of heavy metal, like weird? So anyway, I do that because it blocks out, I don't know, I get my best work done on airplanes, and so I found the closest I could to airplane sound, and I put my headphones on as a signal not to bother me, and then I try to get stuff done. So.
Is that a Spotify channel for real?
Yeah.
Oh,
Clean White Noise. Subscribe to.
Wow.
Promoting Spotify playlists now.
I sometimes do the YouTube 10-hour rainstorm, thunderstorm.
That's cool too.
Yeah, it helps me sleep. Yeah. What books are you reading right now? I know you're a heavy reader. You like to read a lot. So what books are you reading right now?
So I'm trying to read. I'm starting to read one called Thanks for the Feedback, which someone in my company asked us all to read that, which is basically a guide on how to deliver feedback effectively in a way that doesn't piss people off. So I don't know if that was assigned to me or not, but no, we're all doing it in an effort to get better at that, because I think we work in a 20-person team, and so everyone's just speaking and giving feedback rapid fire,
right.
And so I think being able to get good at doing that in a way that doesn't offend, even if it's in the moment. So we're all just kind of trying to get better at that.
Okay.
Because we try to have a very feedback-oriented culture where, if we think what you did was wrong, we tell you that in the moment, and it's not like you don't wait every week to have your one-on-one.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
So figuring out how to implement that in a culture is hard, without, especially if not everyone is like a blunt personality. So that's sort of something we're trying to figure out.
Okay. What about your favorite book? Fiction or nonfiction or both?
Well, these are a little bit most recent, but I would say my favorite book is probably the Steve Jobs one by Isaac. What's his name?
Walter
Isaacson.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. I love Steve Jobs, and I've read all his kind of biographies or every documentary written about him. But I thought that book in particular was written very, very well, and very fast-paced, very fun to read, and it I guess made me appreciate just the journey. And I think that I also saw that in the Nike book by Phil Knight, Shoe Dog, and same thing. It was just like the length of the journey, and as I'm 3 years in, being like, oh, I've been doing this for so long, and you look at these guys who've spent 30, 40 years building these amazing companies, and you're like, it's just inspiring. It's like it inspires you to stop whining and be like, I have it so much easier than these people, and it kind of puts entrepreneurship in perspective.
I think on Nike, Swoosh is also a great one.
Oh, yeah?
It's from a neutral party. It's like the Steve Jobs book. It's a lot more dense. It's really good. So, yeah.
All right, well, that might be my next answer next time.
Okay, yeah, maybe, hope so. Fingers crossed. So, what makes a good dating profile?
Oh, man.
Uh-oh.
I can answer this in my sleep. Okay, guys or girls? Guys or girls?
Let's do both.
Okay. Well, the ones that are common to both I would say 6 high-resolution photos. So, and double asterisk on resolution. We've done testing on low res versus high res of the same photo, and it's just like you'll get a 30 to 40% increase in likes, just not because you were more attractive or not because your face has more of a golden ratio, but simply because you had a nicer lens on the camera that is taking the photo of you. So I always say that, especially my guy friends are like, what's the best hack to get more matches? I'm like, just get a friend with a nice camera to take a photo of you in a button down and like where you don't, you look nice, and put it on your first photo, and you'll see your score skyrocket. So, it's probably like $75, $100 to get a couple of nice headshots, and it definitely pays for itself over again. So I would say that's the easiest hack. And then the other thing is always put a picture that shows your personality and maybe a polarizing part of your personality, so that you're not getting matches that are bad fits for you. So,
I see.
And this is more if you're optimizing you don't want to go on bad dates offline, which I really was trying to, everything I could do to avoid that. So I actually put, like an example for me was, I put a karaoke photo of me like screaming Ace of Base. It's like not a flattering photo at all. I put that as my 6th photo. My score dropped for sure, because I think I replaced like a cute smiling photo in, I don't know, normal photo with this like, my face is like, I'm like doing the final ballot. So it's, anyway, long story short, I found that the guys, all guys started writing back to that, or using that as the opener, because they're like, oh, I see you like Ice of Base, or you like karaoke. And then it also, any guy that was scared of like a loud, fun girl would swipe left, so I didn't have to deal with those people. So I feel like it's a better way to both represent yourself and kind of scare off the people you don't want to deal with.
That's fair, that's a good. So what's the worst pickup line you've seen on the league? Not just you, because you get to probably see quite a few. Or can you say? You're not allowed to say.
No, I can say. We have a lot of bad ones. And good ones. I would say the one I get most common is people, so I'm always on, I'm kind of like Tom from MySpace, because I just like to go, like when we open new cities, I'm like, let's see what Nashville's going on in Nashville. And so I'll like match with people here and there, and the one I always get is, you're like the hair club founder. You're not only the owner, you're the client, and that's what is the hair club for men, where he was bald, and so he created this formula that made him not bald, and then he went on TV and told everybody how it worked for him.
Right.
So everyone was like, are you that guy? Bad opener. But everybody does that, and they think it's creative. And so, is it, though, if everyone does it?
I see.
So that's probably the worst. And then as far as I would say the ones we see the worst are with they don't put the person's name and they just say hey or hi. And I just think that it's like a waste of a communication.
I see.
Like, just don't.
I see. All right, so final question.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I mean, for a friend, is the first picture, should that be a shirtless selfie, a bunch of puppies, you with a bunch of puppies, or should it be shirtless selfie with a bunch of puppies?
Shirtless selfie, bunch of puppies, and grandma.
Okay, that's good to know. All right.
Yeah, I would say that. But definitely I always say to show friends, show family, show dogs and puppies, because it shows that you have a full life. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I say the more the merrier. As long as they know which one is you.
Absolutely.
You do look a little like a puppy sometimes. No, I'm kidding. In a good way.
Okay. All right, so I think that's it for the questions that I have for Amanda. I'm definitely going to open it up for everyone. So just a reminder, we have about 15 minutes, and we're going to try to keep it to one question per person, just because I know, we don't want to go over. She's a very busy lady, and we want to make sure we respect her time. So please, anybody has a question, please come up to the microphones.
Hey,
how's it going?
Good.
Ethan Nussbaum, second-year MBA here. So first of all, thanks for coming out. This has been great. I guess there's been a large conversation this year around sexual harassment, and part of that conversation has fallen onto dating apps and kind of the communities that either they foster or they permit. And so how do you guys kind of combat that at the league, and what is the conversation like over there around this topic?
Yeah, it's kind of all anyone's talking about in Silicon Valley right now. I actually think dating apps are good for like a good solution for this issue. I mean, the way we think about it is we block you. So we require you to authenticate with Facebook and LinkedIn, and because of that, we block you from anyone you're connected to on Facebook, anyone you're connected to on LinkedIn, and anyone who works at your current company on LinkedIn. So the way we think about that is we know you have a first-degree network, and we know it's awesome, and we know you're smart, and we know you could probably figure out how to ask someone, if you work at Goldman Sachs, someone else at Goldman Sachs for coffee, and you can navigate that relationship, but you should use a league to get to a new type of person that you wouldn't get to normally, right? So I actually think if everybody used the league, none of these problems would really exist, because we wouldn't be trying to date at work. I think that is just like a really now, in this day and age, we don't need to be dating at work, and we should use the technology to our advantage. So that's sort of the way we think about it. And we actually created a bunch of new ad campaigns because of this, being like, don't date at work. Like, just don't do it. It's like too risky. It's like we don't need to anymore. And let's use technology. Like, this is why we have technology, to prevent these situations. What's already a really hard situation at work, like, let's not make it worse. So that's sort of my take on it, is that I feel like it's almost like dating apps are a solution to it rather than a cause. But I don't know. I'd be open to hearing your if you feel otherwise. I just feel like it's, yeah.
So I don't know. There's been some conversations around, like, within specifically Tinder, kind of is the one I was reading about, kind of the sort of anonymity of it. So there's just kind of a first name, not much of knowing who they are. They kind of, mostly on the guy's side, obviously, are kind of sending things without any repercussion.
Right.
And so it's how do you take care of making sure that your community is a safe space for everyone in it? And so do you guys have any sort of
that's what I just mentioned, the LinkedIn, the Facebook, the triple authentication, the human review, the kicking out people if they say anything. We don't let people send photos. Like, we don't have that problem, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
But good question, because that's really why, that's one of the reasons I designed it.
Yeah, hi, Lexi Silverman, a first-year MBA. Thanks for coming
Thanks.
tonight. Yeah, I just wanted to know from a business perspective, I mean, the model of the business that you're in is a success on your product means they're no longer a consumer of your product. I know you have, the verticals
Right.
and things like that, but so how do you work into a business model where if people are successful with your product, they then leave? As opposed to kind of the business models that we learn in class every day, which is get people to stay, get them to buy
Right.
more, and just retention. So how do you work through a business model that's kind of the opposite of retention?
No, it's a good question, and it's definitely the Achilles heel of our industry. But I think our industry is changing. So couple trends. One, people aren't getting married very early anymore, right? So people are having more and more relationships that are shorter and shorter. So not to sound depressing about it, I actually think it's a good thing. But so you have a lot of what we call like win back. So we'll have people leave and come back, leave and come back. We have people that we have people as young as 22 on the app, and we have people as old as 55, 60 on the app. So the way I think about it is if we successfully churn out you and someone else and you're a league couple for life, you're probably going to acquire a lot of users for us based on your word of mouth, based on people who go to your wedding and hearing that where you met. So I think of that as a good churn, and I think a good churn, in my mind, I estimate a good churn gets probably 10 to 15 signups for us. The other way we handle that is we actually only do annual dues right now. So we make you pay for the year up front so that we're not incentivized to keep you on the app. I don't want to have to keep you on the app if you met the person of your dreams on day one. So that's sort of one of the reasons we aren't doing like monthly, or we aren't doing 6 months right now. We're only doing a year because we wanted to kind of be able to have it make sense from a business model perspective and profit, and like, can we get enough money from the users if you do leave on the first day? If you pay us for the full year, yeah, that's fine. So that's sort of one way we've thought about it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Since you're focused on meaningful growth instead of growth for the sake of growth, how have you broached that conversation with VCs and what's been the reaction from them?
Yeah, great question. So we are purposefully not actively fundraising right now because we are wanting to figure out our meaningful growth and our meaningful growth engine and how that exactly works. Is it, where should Minneapolis be and how many users should we have at that point? So we're still kind of trying to figure out what our own milestones are for growth. And then I think the next stage would be finding an investor that will work with those and will work with those milestones. So we, one of the reasons we started monetizing was so that we didn't have to be beholden to a VC to tell us what our growth milestones should be. We should be able to build a sustainable business, and then if it makes sense to partner with a funding partner that can help us grow at an accelerated rate, that's awesome, but let's make sure that we're aligned on that. So we did that because your question's great, and we did that for that exact reason, was to kind of prevent a situation where we're forced to go to India.
Got it. Okay.
So kind of going off of that, how do you make sure you're going to keep your product pure in the future? Because Facebook started exclusive, first Ivy League and then college students, and then now it's everybody. My aunt Susan in
Right.
Wisconsin's on there. So how do you make sure to keep your product pure? So because investors are always going to think about growth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the more advanced our team gets from a technology perspective, the better we can keep your experience pure while also growing, right? So I think, one of the reasons we're so selective is that we want the experience to be awesome when you're inside, but if we can make it so that it's awesome for you no matter whether we have 1 million users or 100,000, why does it matter to you? It's probably actually better that we have 1 million than 100,000 for you, depending on what you're looking for. So I think we will want to grow kind of at a more growth for growth sake at some point, but I want to make sure we have the algorithms and the technology in place so that it's not a detrimental experience to anyone.
I see. All right.
Hello. I'm a staff member here at UT, but I am interested in entrepreneurship. And I had a question about when you were looking for investors. How are you able to convince them that your business could beat competition?
Yeah, it's hard. I didn't for a long time, and then I convinced one, and I found out once you have one person, it's sort of it's a rolling effect, right? So once you get one person that sort of buys in and is willing to say, yeah, I stand behind this person, this idea, this company, I think it's going to have legs, then you go to the next person, they come on board, and you start to kind of build out a little team. And so I actually went to women first that I felt would understand the problem, and I went to very successful, very career-oriented women One had been in a divorce, and she didn't even, I think in the first like 3 minutes, she was like, I get it, where do I sign? You know, she was just like totally understood the problem and the solution that I had designed. And so I learned that going towards people that kind of were like her was going to be a lot less education for me to have to educate them on the issues. So I kind of went that route, and I had a couple really awesome women early on behind me that I used to then kind of get their credibility from a lot of the male investors in a way. And I had a couple male investors behind me at the beginning that just put in a very small amount, but they were willing to sort of let me use their name. And I think that means a lot at the beginning, whether it's 25K or 250K. If you can say this person believes in me and thinks this is a business, it's less about the money at that point. It's more about kind of the social proof. So yeah, I guess you could say I used social proof a lot at the early days.
Thank you.
Hi. Wait, I should adjust this thing. So my name is Anastasia. I'm MBA second year exchange student. So I have a question. You mentioned 1 million users, right? And I believe that out of this million, not everybody is looking for like a stable, long-lasting relationship, right? So you somehow, I assume, filter those one-night standers from people who actually aim at something serious. But then, doesn't it feel kind of far away from the? I'm just wondering, far away from the values, because the value and the vision of your company is to match them for a long-lasting relationship. So
Right.
how
you
does
don't
it
think
feel
there's a million-
like matching those people who are just one-night standers, or like people who want a short-term relationship? Because on Tinder, I mean, when you go on a date, you don't know, and
Right.
it depends on the person, right? With some people, you want a long-lasting relationship, and with
Right.
some people not. But you still have a choice of both, right? But when you specify it from the very beginning, so there is this group of people who are just meeting for like short-term, just to me, it sounds a little weird to be part of this, even though that could be of my interest potentially, you know what I mean?
Well,
Just
maybe
asking how
maybe
it
I'm a
works.
little confused. So the 1 million is like a target number that we want, that we think there's 1 million people looking for serious relationships in the world that could
Okay.
use the league that also have a LinkedIn account. So I mean, that's like literally
Okay.
the number. So that's what, Hong Kong, that's like all, but that isn't one night stand. So
Okay.
I guess the way we're thinking about it is no one wanting a one night stand will probably want to wait on a wait list in general. And that's sort of deterring that. So we like to think that, and also people, when they report other people, if they are there for a one night stand, we kick them out. So, I mean, I guess I like to assume that going forward, we will still continue to be a relationship seeking app.
Okay.
And those 1 million users will all be there for the right reasons, and we'll be able to screen out the casual users, or at least put them with the other casual users.
Okay, casual
if
users.
that is
This
the
is
case,
how you
right?
call them. Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering, because
Yeah.
I was using Tinder as well for quite some time, and it's not like I would put myself into one of the categories.
Right.
And I think, like, from the personal point of view, it's hard to decide that, yeah, I'm looking for a long-lasting relationship with anyone.
Right.
You know,
well, that's why
it
we don't
doesn't-
ask that either. But I think you're looking for I like to say you're looking for a serious relationship. I think that's a pretty accurate statement, I guess, for our users. Most of the users on our app would agree with that statement, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Just
Like,
one
that's why we're
doesn't
downloading
exclude
the
the
app, right?
other. You know what I mean? So like you're filtering out the people who also could be looking for a relationship, but not.
But we're okay
Like,
with that.
okay.
Tinder can take
Just-
them. Yeah.
yeah,
Like
just us.
we know, like we kind of know who our users are, and if they, if we think they'll use Tinder also, if they have that need, I guess. So
Right.
we're not trying to be like everything to everyone, and we assume people are going to have more than one dating app on their phone, and I'm okay with that. Or I think we're okay with that.
All right. Last two.
I wanted to ask, I noticed that you use algorithms to help people find better matches. I've actually heard that the Bible is the best relationship book out there. Do you, if you haven't read it, or if you've read it, maybe would you think about using it if that is the case? Would you use it in your algorithms? And is there maybe a certain area where there's no scientific way to find love?
No, it's a good question. I mean, eHarmony is based all around Christian principles, and they have this big questionnaire that is supposed to match you based on your shared values, and they claim the divorce rate eHarmony is, I think, half of what it is in the wild, right? So I don't know. I mean, we have Christians in league, and we definitely let people choose by religion just to say, hey, please serve me other Christians or Catholics or Jewish. So we do let people state preferences there. And we have noticed people of the same religion do tend to match at a higher rate, but I wouldn't say we've injected much more than that into the algorithm. We are looking towards moving into like a values-based algorithm, which is more compatibility algorithm. So I think of that as like almost once you know the person is looking for the serious relationship, then how do you give them kind of an algorithm to feel like who is actually going to be a good life partner for you versus meeting for a drink. It was kind of what she was saying. Like there's different kind of levels of seriousness and casualness. So I would think of that as, the type of area you'd want to update. The algorithm would be for the people, if Christian wanting to look for marriage, right? So it would be like a marriage algorithm. But it's a good point.
Yes.
Hello, my name is William. I'm also an exchange student in the second year MBA program. And so you mentioned that you created your company because you were single. So I just want to know if that worked for you.
Darn, everyone always asks me this. No, I am actually dating someone I met through the league, so I'm not married or anything. So I guess I can't claim that I can't be the hair club for men yet. But no, I am. My last 2 relationships have been through the league. I think it literally, like when I'm going to a date and the only thing I have to open is the league to remind me of like who this person is, that I have a little like smile in my face and twinkle in my eye because I'm like, that's why I designed it. So it does, it works for me. I use it exclusively.
Right. Do you have time for one more question?
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, there's
Especially from lacrosse.
You talked about the dating apps market expanding a lot in coming years. What other markets do you think are going to do the same?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Obviously this like quiz game thing that is taking over the millennials, where everyone comes in at 5 and it's like a very integrated quiz game show. That's almost like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but for everybody. I do think this sort of interactive replacement of live TV, but mobile first, is going to be where we're excited about. Like I think it's a blend of content plus like user generated content, but I think something where you're kind of feeling like people want to go back to human interaction again. I think that's sort of what we're seeing with the podcast craze too. Is like people don't want to be reading on their screens. They want to be listening to humans. They want to be interacting with humans. They want to see humans on TV. So I feel like we're in this like going back to humanity phase. And I think a lot of the trends are going to be around bringing people back into it. So yeah, I think the content, mobile first content, video podcasts, I think that all that stuff's really interesting right now.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me,
Amanda.
guys. This was fun.
Yeah, we have a reception afterwards, so if you guys want to join us for some food and drinks, please join us. Thank you very much.